by whom alone kings reign and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding, we, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that we, having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsel may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace, and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This honorable house now resumes its sitting. Today, we are asking leave of the house to do a special continuation of Standing Finance Committee in respect of the review of the BOJ report, which we would like to conclude. So I now ask the members Mr. Marshall moving fast, but it's okay. All right, so members, we will do call of the roll, and after doing call of the roll, we will ask that we vote to suspend the sitting, and we will do so going straight into committee, after which we will come back to the house sitting. Clerk, call of the roll.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Green, Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Ambassador Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terry Long, Mr. Witter, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Morrison, Ms. Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Sivright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown Burke, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Ms. Burchell, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Golding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Perkins, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Morris. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Members, we now move to suspend the sitting so that we can go back to standing finance. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. We will now continue. Member Crawford, could you turn your mic on, please?
Thank you, Chairman. That's a final question. Now, Governor, when we looked at the report and compared it with the fiscal policy paper, your growth estimates in the short term were more optimistic than the government, but your growth estimates in the midterm was much more pessimistic than the government, despite the positive gap. What's the reason for that?
Well, I'm not sure when the fiscal paper was presented. However, what we have found is that the quarter end in December and March they have turned out to be better quarters than thought before. And so that would have informed our view of a milder negative growth in those quarters. Going forward, when we look at the capacity of the economy to take investments and digest it, so to speak, it seems to us that in the region of 1 to 3% is about all it can do. It bucks upon a capacity problem. For example, just labor and skills. So that's our estimate at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. Member Russell?
Governor, I too join in wishing you well with the next chapter. And as was expressed earlier, we appreciate the service you've provided. Let me start with the issue of rural inflation, which is not covered in the document, the policy brief. But I wonder if you have any information on what inflation looks like in rural areas as compared to urban, given that a lot of the drivers of inflation are those which rural folks would spend a lot of their resources on, transportation, electricity, etc.
Yeah, so statin does produce inflation according to regions. So there's the overall Jamaica, and then there's the Kingston metropolitan area, the other urban towns, and the rural. Typically, we find that rural inflation is typically a little bit higher, than what you'd find in other urban or overall KMA, and that just reflects the swings predominantly in agricultural prices, for example. It reflects transportation costs being higher for energy and so forth. So it's typically a little bit higher.
So the natural follow-up to that is there policy recommendations which are made to reduce the effect of inflation on rural areas, given the point you just made?
Well, the challenge is that the tools that the central bank has at its disposal, it's really a blanket tool. It cannot target specific regions or specific sectors. So to deal with that problem, you're more looking at what we call structural policies. So this now relates to more government policy rather than monetary policy.
All right, thank you. The second one, while in your term as governor, you'd have seen quite a few shocks. Beryl, Melissa, probably the most notable. I just wondered, given the new realities in which we live with climate change, if the bank, what is the bank learning, and how should Jamaica be adopting its monetary and fiscal policy in light of the new realities in which we live?
Yes, we are very sensitive to the climate change issue, and we have begun the process of consultation with the deposit-taking institution, the lending institutions, to formulate policies that recognize that the impact of climate change can be quite negative on credit. So, for example, if you're going to lend to a homeowner who is near to the sea, you need to understand that it's a different risk to lending to someone elsewhere. So I'm just simplifying it with that, to say that we are sensitive to the need to be more careful about how credit is distributed given climate change.
All right, just one last one to wrap up. The projected 1 to 2% growth outlook in the medium term, that is quite low and probably will not give us the change that we need, right, in terms of the transformation that we're seeking in communities. I wonder if you have any thoughts on the main constraints to higher growth in the economy.
I have a personal opinion. I think that our labor productivity is too low. We have virtually full employment, but at the same time, we have 1 or 2% growth. So that implies that the additional employment is not producing a value added for GDP that is significantly above the 1 to 2%. And so what we do need to do in the long run, medium term, is have a workforce that is more productive. And that means a workforce that is more educated, more skilled, to be able to do more high-valued jobs than they are now doing at the margin. No doubt there are other structural issues, but I would say fundamentally that is a problem. And when you look at Jamaican workforce compared to other equivalent workforces of small countries that have a higher GDP growth rate than us, you'll see that their productivity is higher.
Part of the argument, though, is that the way we remunerate and incentivize production is a part of the problem, because the very person who might be a low productivity person in this context will do much better placed in another context.
Yes, so it's not just the willingness of the person. They need to have the tools to work with, the environment, the infrastructure, the connectivity. Yes, so a Jamaican leaves our shores, goes to the United States, they become more productive, partly because of that environment, because of the discipline involved. So we need all of that to raise our levels of productivity too.
All right. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Speaker.
Minister Tufton.
Hi, thank you. 2 quick questions, Governor. First of all, I join the echo of sentiments to you on your stewardship. Thank you very much to you and your team. KYC platform to allow clients to shift accounts from one bank to the next, I see as an important part of the competitive requirement to address issues like ATM machines that are not functional, opening of accounts, which I'd like you to comment on, and interest rates. I mean, interest rates in the commercial banks are hovering at 10%. You're offering, you're about 5.5%. You know, I'm linking all of this to competition. I may be wrong, and you can comment on that. It's very difficult to shift from one bank to the next and to open an account. It's almost like a thesis. And I just wondered, why is it so difficult, and what is being done to try and make it a lot easier in order to stimulate competition?
I'm going to ask Dr. Wade to talk to that.
No, I think you're correct. At the core of the problem is the degree of competition in the sector. Now, as the governor indicated earlier, we're not going to change the number of banks. But what we can try to change is the ease with it you can move from one bank to another, the ease with it you can move your products. You can select or choose products from one institution or another. So we have been working on a couple of things. You mentioned the eKYC. That is a major tool or a major initiative that we're pursuing. We are in the RFP process. We had an initial tender, but we weren't able to find companies that actually met the requirement. So we are going back to tender very shortly. So work is progressing where that is concerned. We're also working with the banks to see how can we make more readily available in one place to the public comparative data on interest rates and on fees in one central place. We had hoped to actually have launched that already, but when we started to drill down in terms of the data, we realized we needed to get more granular data from the institution so that it can be of benefit to the public. So hopefully before the year is out, we can launch what is called a shopping platform. So you could go to our website or we'd have an app, and you can see what Bank X offers vis-a-vis Bank Y. So we're slowly putting in the basic tools that will allow persons to make a choice, that will empower persons to make a choice. Because our vision for the banking sector, as we indicate, you know, you're not going to get more banks coming in. And more banks coming in probably won't even change the competition needle. But what you want is to empower people to move and choose.
Right.
And so our vision really is for what is called an open banking concept for Jamaica.
That I would say can't happen fast enough, because it seems to me the power must reside with the consumer. And if a bank knows that they can just move their account, I believe the banking and as it ought to be will return. The second one, related to that, what can Parliament do, if anything, us parliamentarians, to hasten that process, whether it's laws to be changed or indeed to increase the digital platform engagement that I think will also create a more efficient banking system? Is there anything that is lacking, Governor, maybe outgoing Governor? Maybe you are the one to address this, since you can take a parting shot at us without, you know, even if you have to offend us. What is it that we need to do at the level of legislation in the House here?
Dr. Tofton, that's a difficult one, and I do have a view.
We'd like to hear your view.
But I'd rather discuss it with the minister first.
Oh man, this is the highest.
I will do so before leaving office.
You're in the highest court of the land. I'm sure the minister don't mind. And if you want a Bible, we can provide it.
I think the minister would like me to discuss it with her first.
But seriously, is there anything that you can discuss? Because I think that we have a responsibility and we must take advice. I mean, you have an independent central bank, but the bank is empowered to act based on decisions that we take here.
Right. So what I think the Parliament has a role to play, and that is what I want to speak to the Minister about.
What's your personal opinion?
I can't give, I'll give you my personal view on August 19 when I'm retired. But I'll give it to the Minister
we
in the
can't
meanwhile.
fire you, know. All right.
Any other questions, Minister?
I have one more, but I'm being asked for a point
no,
of...
no. Pardon me? That is totally acceptable. He is being asked for a personal response he cannot give now because he operates in the capacity as governor and governor alone at this stage. Moving on. Minister Tufton, last question, please.
Another, should I go on?
Yes, yes. Minister.
Okay, so Governor, I see you, I see the diplomacy there. You're a consummate public servant. One final question, energy cost. So if electricity cost in Jamaica is probably twice as high as probably the average comparable country around the world, and it has a real impact on consumers. With everything that's happening with the war and so on, I mean, has the bank done any analysis on the implications of inflation-driven related cost around energy and by extension to the final consumer to provide any guidance at all? Is there any sort of involvement, or that's with the Planning Institute? Has there been any analysis done?
Yes, of course, we know all the components that contribute to inflation, and energy is a major one. Agricultural food prices would be another major one. So we do have a very good idea about that, and our inflation outlook is based on what we expect that energy prices to be like globally, which is impacted now by the Middle East. So we're not very optimistic for the short term about energy prices. The way in which we try to combat inflation, and particularly imported inflation, is through the exchange rate, by trying to keep that as stable as possible. And earlier in our comments, I mentioned that on a year-over-year basis, the exchange rate has appreciated, not depreciated. And that helps a lot in keeping imported inflation low.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Minister. Minister Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions and probably one comment. And thank you, Governor, for your leadership. I think the bank is in a very strong position, and that is as a result of you and the team. I'm happy to hear that the Twin Peaks model that is almost ready to come to Cabinet. My hope is that you'll be able to get it before Cabinet, before you leave. I think that is a critical part of not just the legacy, but what is needed, especially in relation to the customer service aspects of our banks. So my first question is about the ATMs. Right? You had put in a system of monitoring for ATMs. I'm wondering how that is doing. Are the banks living up to the standards in relation to the ATMs? And if they are not, what is the bank doing about it? Can the bank do anything about it? That is the first part. And the second part is in relation to hurricane-ravaged areas where ATMs have been destroyed. Are the banks under any obligations to put back in those ATMs? And this is very important because some of the banks left the spaces with physical locations prior to the hurricane and said that the replacement were these ATMs. Now that the ATMs have been destroyed, the people are without service. So that is the first question.
Yes, luckily for me, I brought along Dr. Lewis, who is the expert on the ATM business.
Thank you very much, Governor. So I would say that Hurricane Melissa had a significantly negative impact on the ABM infrastructure, which the sector, the banking sector, is just about recovering from now. In the immediate aftermath of the hurricane, about 50% of the stock was offline. As at March, we have about 90 to 95% of all ABMs back. However, there are some parishes, as you point out, where they have not been able to replace ABMs that were destroyed as a result of the passage of the hurricane. So the question as to whether or not we can compel them to put back infrastructure in those areas, I would say there's nothing in our powers to compel them. Our discussions with them, though, don't suggest that they do not have intention so to do. We haven't received any notification or advisory that they have no intention. However, there are sometimes delays in procurement. As you know, it takes time to import, install, and the infrastructure in terms of electricity, data have to be in place before even the physical machine has any chance of operating. The second question is whether or not we have a ability to penalize DTIs who do not meet the service level standard. The answer is no. Currently, the framework is one that is focused on safety and soundness. So a DTI will have to have a very large proportion of its ABM facility non-operational before we can really use safety and soundness as a basis for sanctioning. But as the governor would have pointed out, under the Twin Peaks framework, the idea is that there would be a competent authority whose mandate would be solely focused on both that issue, complaints handling, redress, and also in terms of market conduct, which is just how you go about providing your service. And that, in that framework, it is envisaged that where there is non-compliance, because the primary statute has that as its focus, then there's a basis for sanctioning, levying either more than likely financial sanctions rather than imprisonment, which is a sanction under the prudential side for safety and soundness.
The second question, although Mr. Lewis, you never told me if they were meeting the standards.
So let's break down the standard into the three: measurable, quantitative, and then the qualitative. In relation to the quantitative measures, each DTI is required to have 90% or more of its ABM fleet operation at any given time. They are meeting that standard. As at March, it had fallen, and they're now back up to between 90 and 95%. And that is true broadly across their ABM network. It is not necessarily true by parish, because you may have a parish where you have 2 or 3 ABMs, and those ABMs are not operational. The standard is your total fleet of ABMs. The second standard, in terms of uptime, they're not meeting. The standard is 95% overall. They're at 92%, 93%. Before Melissa, they were almost at 94, about to reach. And then, of course, they had the setback, so they're building that back. And in relation to the time it takes them to put the machine back into service, there have been significant improvements. In rural Jamaica, their time to fix the machines has fallen to the 3 hours. But they are not making that standard in relation to the Kingston and metropolitan area, in which case they are not making the 1 hour benchmark. So the results have been mixed and negatively impacted by both Beryl and then Melissa.
Thank you. So the second question and the final question. So, Governor, clearly your primary focus is on price and financial system stability. But the Act also speaks to ensuring that that is done in keeping with the government's growth and employment targets. The question is, sometimes there is a feeling that there's an over-reliance on raising the interest rates, and that stifles growth and the ability to invest. Now that the direction is to more rapidly grow the country, especially in light of Hurricane Melissa, the question is, are there other policy prescriptions that can be utilized to maintain the stability while driving the growth agenda?
Yes, we have the specialized mandate of price on financial sector stability. It's like we're on a football team, and let us say that we are the defense. We're expected to stay in a particular place and play a particular role. However, if the opportunity arises for us to move forward and score a goal, we will. So I think you can look at the Bank of Jamaica in that way. We are the policemen of inflation and financial stability. If we have an opportunity to lower rates because we think inflation is going to be low and expectations are going to be low, we will. And if we have an opportunity to encourage growth in any other way, we will. But our primary mandate is inflation, guarding inflation from being excessive. Because inflation hits the poor more than anything else. That's how we view the trade-off between growth and inflation.
Member Terrellon.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Again, Governor, to you and the team at BOJ, again, just to thank you for the work that you have done, certainly in terms of steering Jamaica through the COVID years and, of course, Hurricane Beryl and Hurricane Melissa. That has been mentioned, but notably, the work that the BOJ did in coordination, of course, with our team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and other ministries as well, in getting Jamaica removed from the FATF, that notorious grey list. Now that we have been removed, what is that urgent push going forward now by the bank in terms of new policy mechanisms, our dealings with international banks in terms of to remove the question of blocked funds and delayed transactions? That's an issue that has been raised even recently in this House as it relates to everyday transactions, and when you're talking about use of technology and removing funds, same-day transactions, you know, we still have that sort of banking regime where we do not see same-day transactions, meaning same-day transactions. We don't have the sort of 24-hour system. So my thinking is, with Jamaica now being removed from that FATF list, can we see a greater push now towards correspondent banks across the world, etc., in addition to, obviously, it's now easier for us now to access international funding at cheaper rates as well, not just at the commercial sector, but also at the individual sector as well?
Yes, thank you for that question. The fight to stay off of the grey list continues. And as the minister knows, we have a reckoning coming in September shortly. So it's a constant battle. The standards get higher and higher. And for better or for worse, Jamaica has done so well in the past in this respect that they have very high expectations of when we do our next test, which is in September. So that is a challenge we face. To have 24-hour RTGS is an objective that is very worthwhile for the bank to pursue. And I feel assured that that is an objective that we are going to pursue, because it's not adequate, it's not good enough to be able to do a transaction and it not go through almost instantaneously. So we are working on that end. The number of correspondent banks certainly would look more favorably on Jamaica, having been taken off of the grey list. So I think that in the future we'll find that that array of banks will grow.
Wrapping up will be our Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Minister Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Governor Biles, I know that there is still a full 2 months to go before you put down the title. But I want to also publicly express my thanks to you and the team that you've been doing at the Bank of Jamaica, to you for the work at the helm of the Bank of Jamaica, an institution that was established many decades ago, back in the early 1960s, and has become a well-respected institution, not just in Jamaica, but across the region. As governor, as you said earlier on, you've led through exogenous disturbances. COVID, Beryl, Melissa, and now the oil war. And you have been graceful and steady through all of this. So we commend you, Governor Biles and the team, for the recent awards, the Best Bank Award 2025, and for yourself, you just recently won the RG Platinum Award for legacy service, which includes, being the head of EPOC, Economic Policy Oversight Committee, through a very, very rough period. So on behalf of the government and a grateful people of Jamaica, I want to say a heartfelt thank you for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Governor, would you like to say anything else before we conclude?
Madam Speaker, no, I've had a long session with you, and I have expressed the honor that I have felt to lead this bank, and I would only be repeating myself.
Thank you,
if
Governor.
I said more. Thank you very much.
Let me say thanks to the team. The report of the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives on the Bank of Jamaica quarterly monetary policy statement for the 6 months ended March 2026 and the monetary policy reports dated February 24, 2026 and May 26, 2026 is before me. Is it the wish of the committee that I sign? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The committee now stands adjourned. Thank you again to the team from BOJ. As indicated earlier in our most unusual sitting, this Honorable House now resume its sitting, coming out of our Standing Finance Committee meeting. Today we continue with the sectoral debate and we'll have presentations from the Honorable Delroy Chuck, KC, MP, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and Member of Parliament for St. Andrew North East. Also, Mrs. Natalie Nita Garvey, Member of Parliament for St. Catherine North Central, and Opposition Spokesperson on Local Government and Participatory Democracy. I wish to extend a special welcome to the constituents in the gallery from the constituencies represented by the two members of Parliament presenting today, and trust that you will find the proceedings both enjoyable and informative. I must, however, remind those seated in the gallery, you are not allowed to clap, make loud comments, or engage in any way in any behavior that will disturb the proceedings in the chamber. Thank you. House Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Want to welcome those in the gallery who are here today for our sitting, and I suspect particularly for the sectoral presentations by our two members, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs and Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeastern, the Honourable Delroy Chuck, and Member of Parliament for St. Catherine North Central, Mrs. Natalie Nita Garvey. Madam Speaker, at this time, as is customary, I ask for you to suspend the agenda items to allow for the sectoral presentation to be at the front of the
Thank you, House Leader. House, the question is we suspend the items on the agenda to allow for the sectoral debate on the public business. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I will now welcome the Minister, Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeastern, the Honourable Delroy Chuck.
Madam Speaker, I ask permission to speak from a seat other than my home.
Permission granted, Minister.
Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon with a deep sense of satisfaction, mixed with a tinge of humility, on what is my 11th consecutive year of sectoral presentation. Yes. And last, by no means least, 29 years of uninterrupted public service as a Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, this is no easy feat, and I express immense gratitude to my constituents of the great constituency of St. Andrew Northeastern for placing confidence in the continuous efforts towards a safe and peaceful constituency. Madam Speaker, thanks to the Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, for his trust and confidence in my stewardship, my fellow Cabinet Ministers, and to all the Members of Parliament for their support in ensuring a collective approach towards building a stronger justice system. During the past year, Madam Speaker, the ongoing efforts to further improve the justice system have been a major challenge and were made extremely more difficult as a result of the onslaught of Hurricane Melissa, which wreaked havoc on the court infrastructure and other justice facilities. Throughout the difficult period, Madam Speaker, the dedicated, hard-working team at the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs and its departments and agency, led by Permanent Secretary Mrs. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, continued the task of ensuring that members of the public had access to the wide range of justice services. I must emphasize, Madam Speaker, that the heavy burden of maintaining an improved justice system is not the sole task of the ministry, and I must commend my able and supportive State Minister, the Honourable Marissa Dalrymple Filbert, and her team. Chief Justice, the Honourable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Supreme Court judges and Parish Court judges, and the Court Administration Division led by Mrs. Tricia Cameron Anglin, who I see in the gallery. President of the Court of Appeal, the Honourable Mrs. Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop, and other judges of appeal. Attorney General Dr. Derek McCoy, Solicitor General Mrs. Marlene Aldred and her team, Director of Prosecutions Ms. Claudette Thompson and her team, and Madam Speaker, I pay tribute to the former Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Paula Llewellyn, who retired last year after serving 17 years as Jamaica's first female the Director of Public Prosecution. To the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Council, Mrs. Diane Watson, and her team, Administrator General and Chief Executive Officer, Mrs. Stacey Ann Carty, and her team, Chief Parliamentary Counsel, Ms. Judith Grant and her team, Director, Legal Reform, Ms. Nadine Wilkins and her team, and our esteemed stakeholders, to include civil society and other sectors who remain committed to building a stronger justice system. Madam Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to highlight the ongoing partnerships involving our international partners, especially in the area of funding, technical expertise, and related matters. The support from the following international partners is immeasurable: Global Affairs Canada, the United Nations Development Programme, the United Nations Children Fund, the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the Government of Rwanda and the Rwanda Cooperative Initiative Limited, International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Section in the United States Embassy, the European Union Delegation to Jamaica. Madam Speaker, other important stakeholders, including the Custodes Rotalorum, Justice of the Peace, and the public, play a major role in the overall quest towards a modern justice system, and to all I owe a debt of gratitude for urging me on to ensure the task of building a stronger justice system, that it does not remain a mere pipe dream. Madam Speaker, I stand here today on the stellar efforts of my two long-standing counsels, Joy Cottrell and Winston Ennis. My constituency liaison officer, Wayne Lawrence, all of whom and my constituency secretary, Monique Tyndale, all of whom have consistently delivered towards my retaining the job of leading the constituency of Northeast St. Andrew. These officers and the extended political team continue to work overtime to address the needs and uplift the lives of the constituents. Madam Speaker, as I travel the length and breadth of Jamaica to hammer home the message of peace and unity, I must highlight the support of my close protection officer, Inspector Howard Hamilton, and my able and willing driver, O'Neill Ennis. Yes. Madam Speaker, last but not least, the support of my wife, Patricia, yes, who is here in the audience. I mean, 48 years and continuing. There's no doubt she deserves an OM. And my 4 daughters and 6 grandchildren, their support cannot be underestimated. Thanks for my wife for being here today. Madam Speaker, it is an open secret that Hurricane Melissa left a trail of destruction on our court facilities in the West, namely Trelawney, St. Anne, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And picking up the pieces has not been easy. Funding the repairs and identifying appropriate locations continue to be a challenge. Yeah. With the requisite input, however, we are now embarking on a major program of resilience to improve the existing court infrastructure, the details of which I will share with this honourable House in short order. But, Madam Speaker, on the road to a stronger justice system is not an easy one. For the nation to move forward, I impress on all Jamaicans to make greater use of our social justice services, that is restorative justice, victim services, child diversion, mediation, as both and as they all are programs, they continue to reap rich rewards in dealing with domestic disputes, domestic conflicts, and other forms of abuses. I issue my annual and persistent call to my fellow MPs and all Jamaicans to help spread the word that help is but a phone call away. 1-888-JUSTICE, 1-888-587-8423, to engage a member of the ministry's team to identify and provide help in minimizing the numerous incidents of abuse and disputes that occur in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our parish, and across Jamaica. We need to reduce them. Yes. Madam Speaker, Jamaica's continued progress rests on the strength of our shared commitment and determined action. Together, we're forging a justice system that is stronger, more responsive, and uncompromising in its pursuit of accountability and the rule of law. Yes. As we look to the future, let us remain steadfast in our mission to build a society where justice prevails, opportunities are equitable, and every individual is afforded fairness, dignity, and protection under the law. Madam Speaker, the last fiscal year, the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs and the judiciary made significant progress, as we have been doing for the past 5, 8, and 10 years, and more. Our modernization and digitization efforts are advancing steadily, and our outreach programs have impacted thousands of Jamaicans. New policies and legislation were developed and implemented. These achievements took place despite the severe challenges brought by Hurricane Melissa and its devastating impact on the justice sector, on our stakeholders, and on all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, in pursuit of a stronger justice system, which is our sectoral theme this year, the former Ministry of Justice and the former Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs merged to become the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs in September 2025. Our vision of a first-class justice system remains clear and focused. As we modernize our justice system and provide Jamaicans with greater efficiency, we continue to promote the rule of law, peace, harmony, and goodwill. Our justice system continues to grow in the delivery of justice and access to justice offered to Jamaicans. Once again, to all Jamaicans listening, I remind them help is a phone call away. 1-888-JUSTICE, 1-888-587-8423 for any justice service. I wish, Madam Speaker, to emphasize, and you will soon get the booklet, where the appendices with all the data of the successes and plans will be laid out in greater detail. In fact, the appendices will be more than the presentation because the material is there and I have limited time. Madam Speaker, I wish to salute the Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, and his hard-working team of judges and staff at the Court Administration Division for their efforts in assisting in building a stronger justice system. Over the last fiscal year, the Ministry increased its island-wide focus on those locations in the justice system where the infrastructure needed repairs. The extensive loss, as indicated, caused by Hurricane Melissa, brought to many justice sector facilities, including the island's courthouses and justice centers, fortified the need for us, more than ever, to double our efforts to strengthen the justice system. Madam Speaker, many of these courthouses were built approximately 100 years ago, with some dating back more than 100 years. The truth, Madam Speaker, is that they have served their time. Virtually all the courthouses, 50 out of them, some of them sharing facilities with the parish council, some of them on top of police stations or beside police stations. They have served their time. It is time for us to look forward. Indeed, Madam Speaker, despite millions of dollars spent on improving works to the structures, courthouses in the West simply collapsed during the passage of Hurricane Melissa. For instance, the Falmouth Parish Court can no longer be used. And post-Hurricane Melissa visit to Westmoreland Parish Court easily convinced our team that sadly we'll have to abandon that building to spend 300 or 500 million on an unsafe building. We have to move on. And I can tell the members from Westmoreland, help is on the way. I know that we need facilities to be able for the courts. Because we are government. the Westmoreland cases to be dealt with. We're looking for accommodation, and we hope within the month of June we will find it, and in July we should be in facilities for the parish courts to conduct their cases, and not only at Whithorn. And in due course, the facilities, we were looking for places, but it doesn't come overnight. But we are fortunate that we may find somewhere that can be used. And Madam Speaker, we had to abandon that building in Westmoreland. Similarly, Madam Speaker, the utter devastation of the Black River Parish Court speaks for itself. After we spent almost 100 million on it. So these courts need to be looked at. So, Madam Speaker, given the current state of the justice infrastructure, I am pleased to inform you that during the last fiscal year, we kick-started the planning process for building 4 new courts in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. Anne, and Trelawney, respectively. It is the intention of the government that these 4 new courts will be part of the priority projects to be facilitated by NARA, the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. These, Madam Speaker, is a major policy decision of the government, and I want to thank the Prime Minister and the Cabinet members for agreeing that these courts should form a part of NARA. We hope that these 4 courts, Madam Speaker, will serve for the next 100 years. They must be modern, iconic, state-of-the-art facilities, providing the full range of services expected from a contemporary court. So, Madam Speaker, we also anticipate that early in the next fiscal year, and I know the member from Eastern St. Thomas will be very happy to hear, the St. Thomas Parish Court will be operationalized as we strive to fulfill our mandate for a stronger justice system. Simultaneously, Madam Speaker, we are galvanizing public-private sector partnership to build new court infrastructure in Manchester, St. Catherine, and the Supreme Court. At the moment, Madam Speaker, the Clarendon and Linstead courts have been successfully upgraded, and locations are being explored in parishes such as St. James, while Hanover and Portland courts are to be upgraded to first-class standards. The many outstations in need of rehabilitation are a cause for concern and are being addressed, particularly those sharing space with the police stations. Madam Speaker, I want to express a great hope and expectation that over the next 2 to 3 years, I expect the country will have at least to start to build at least 8 new courts. 4 in Nara, 1 in St. Thomas, and maybe the PPP for Manchester, the Supreme Court, and St. Catherine. As we speak, Madam Speaker, work is underway to complete renovation and rehabilitation works at the Hanover Family Court, the Supreme Court, the Kingston and St. Andrew Traffic Court at Sabina Park, and the St. Elizabeth Parish Court in Santa Cruz. So, member from Northeast St. Elizabeth, we're looking at the Santa Cruz Court. It's being fixed. At the same time, Madam Speaker, when you get the pamphlet, you will see the amount of that's planned to really improve the facilities. Madam Speaker, we are now undergoing a major transformation that will see the Jamaican courts one of the best in the Western Hemisphere. The governments of Jamaica and Rwanda signed a bilateral agreement to implement the very impactful integrated electronic case management system, more commonly referred to as IECMS, Integrated Electronic Case Management System. In November 2022, we visited, the Chief Justice and myself and our teams visited Rwanda, and see where in the courts, no paper. What you had were laptops or smartphone, and everything was transmitted. So, Madam Speaker, we signed a contract in December 2025, and the Rwandans came, and they will be here again shortly. The program has started, and within 2 to 3 years, the courts will be totally transformed. Madam Speaker, I invite all Jamaicans to visualize a scenario within the next 2 to 3 years, when all our justice stakeholders will be electronically interconnected. In other words, when John Brown or Mary Jane is charged with a crime, there will be no more movement of paper from police stations to the court. No movement of paper will take place from the forensic lab, the ODPP, the parish court, the Supreme Court, or to the Court of Appeal. Everything moved electronically. Files related to matters in the parish court would seamlessly reach the circuit court. Criminal records will also be integrated as we benefit from the transformational time management and cost-sharing results of digitizing our courts, which is part, Madam Speaker, of our commitment to a stronger justice system. Madam Speaker, the IECMS, Integrated Electronic Case Management System digitization model, pioneered by the government of Rwanda, will bolster Jamaica's justice reform efforts and eliminate the outdated paper-based case management system now being used in our Jamaican court. It is anticipated, Madam Speaker, that paper will no longer be a part of our court system, and eventually paper will be eliminated from all courts. Madam Speaker, if anyone should ever visit the courthouses in the parishes, you have room full of paper. In most of the parish courts, all the paper would fill the parliament. We want to get rid of those, digitize them, free up space that people can utilize. Madam Speaker, the IECMS, with time running, will definitely be a transformation in our court system. So, Madam Speaker, this will mark a new era for court system, since all stakeholders must now embrace modern technology and abandon our outdated paper-based systems. The aim is to make the use of technology in our Jamaican courts a leading model of excellence in the region. I strongly urge all of the persons, including those inside here, who use the court system, go there with your laptop, go there with a smartphone. Don't bother go there with dockets and files and your bag, your briefcase with everything. Go there with your laptop. Start the process. Madam Speaker, the courts have done extremely well and continue to do extremely well. If you look at the appendix 1 in the booklet you have, you will see how well they have done, reducing backlog in the parish courts and improving the service in the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. The Court Administration Division, we're working very closely with. They were damaged by Hurricane Beryl, but they are now back at their office, and there have been almost 600 new upgraded posts have been approved for them. So, Madam Speaker, a fair amount is being done in the courts. Yes. Over the past 10 years, Madam Speaker, we have spent an average of almost $1 billion per year. No other administration, the Andrew Holness-led administration and this Minister of Justice has done more for the judiciary and the court system than any other administration. And if the member from Northeast St. Elizabeth had done her homework, she will see we have improved the Court of Appeal from 7 judges to 13. 28 judges, Supreme Court judges to 42. about 40 parish court judges to about 70. Two or three masters in chambers to about 8. But more important, Madam Speaker, when we came here in 2016, the court was collapsing. The judges, their newspaper reports of the judges planning to take the then government to court before them. Because, Madam Speaker, let me emphasize, when we came here in 2016, the judges were the poorest paid in the Caribbean. Within a matter of 5 to 6 years, they became the best paid in the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, and their salary continued to improve. And I can say that in the last 10 years, the judges' salary have more than doubled. So when the member from North East St. Elizabeth can impute that the Ministry of Justice is not a reliable partner, Madam Speaker, the truth of the matter is, I don't know in what context, or if it was said that the Chief Justice said so, or in what context. There's absolutely no doubt that the vast majority of the courts have improved, but there are still quite a number of them that needs improvement. They're over 100 years. What I can say to you, colleagues, is that the Chief Justice and the Court Administration Division have been meeting with myself and my property teams and the Permanent Secretary because we want to work closer together to make sure that the court's infrastructure can be maintained and continue to improve. You know the truth, Madam Speaker, is that across Jamaica, maintenance is not taken seriously. No, it's not. That's a fact. And members may not know, but maintenance is the responsibility of the Chief Justice and the Court Administration Division. The Ministry of Justice is responsible for major projects. Where you draw the line between maintenance and minor projects and major infrastructure, and you talk about money. We have worked with Court Administration Division because we want them to improve. Last year, they got 300 million for maintenance. This year, they're getting 500 million. But you know, Madam Speaker, the problem with maintenance is not only in the courts, it's across all government departments. In 2016, when we came, 2 elevators down at Supreme Court were sputtering. I said, no, you need 2 new elevators. We put in 2 new elevators around 2017. Around 2018, over a year after, I'm down there inspecting the courts, and one of the property managers came, and we were in the elevator, and I said, how is the elevator working? He said, brilliant, fantastic, Minister. So I said, when was it last service? He said, it's not broke down yet, sir. And that is how maintenance is seen. Not preventative maintenance, not regular maintenance, but when it broke down. And I'm saying we are going to be working with the Court Administration Division so that everything is maintained regularly. Court Administration Division, they will tell you, we are putting new air conditions in most courts. They must be serviced at least twice per year. So, Madam Speaker, there's a partnership between the Judiciary, the Court Administration Division, and the Ministry of Justice because we want a strong justice system. Madam Speaker, there's a lot to be said, and as I'm watching the time. Social justice services, restorative justice, child diversion, and victim services are a major part of our portfolio. And we have done enormously to help the schools, to help the communities. Yes. And I want members to look at the testimonials in the appendices, and you will see how persons who have benefited from child diversion, victim services, restorative justice, mediation, how grateful they are for these services. And these services, Madam Speaker, are basically free. And we have 3 mobile units. If you need legal assistance, we can send it to your community. Once you book them. Madam Speaker, mediation is a very important part of our push. Yes. I applaud the work of the Dispute Resolution Foundation in this regard, since mediation not only resolves conflicts, but helps to improve operational efficiencies in the justice system by reducing some of the backlog in our courts. Last year, Madam Speaker, if you look at the figures again, Appendix 7, we decided to pay mediators, the Ministry of Justice, starting out at 5,000 for each side, so they could get 10,000. Last year, we increased it to 10,000 each side, 20,000 for the mediator. And last year, we moved from 13 million the previous year to 55 million in the last fiscal year. In truth, Madam Speaker, I have no problem encouraging more use of mediation, because when parties get together to mediate, it's a win-win situation. And I would like to say to the member from Northeast St. Elizabeth, I would prefer to spend more money on mediation than to pay lawyers to get into an adversarial contention. I want more lawyers to become mediators and to participate in mediation. In Singapore, the vast majority of attorneys earn more money on mediation than on doing cases in court. And we need to get to that situation where mediation become and resolve 75% or more of our cases. And I must thank the parish court judges and the judges for referring more of these matters. When they come to court, they refer to mediation, and the success rate of our social justice services, including mediation, is over 80%. Madam Speaker, there's so much more to be said, but I can't go through all of it. Madam Speaker, I ask you... No, man, I can't stick there. I say, Madam Speaker, look at the performance and success of the ministry. Look at Appendix 8 and Appendix 9. We won't go through it, but I go to the Administrator General Department. This is one of the success stories of the Ministry of Justice. Files are being dealt with in a speedy manner. It's Appendix 10. The truth of the matter, Madam Speaker, we are working now with the Administrator General's Department to go around the country to urge persons to make a will. Because when they make a will, it prevents a whole heap of problems. The dead left thing is a problem. And not only are we doing that, Madam Speaker, we are encouraging Jamaicans, and I will do so in this Parliament, start practicing estate planning. Put aside a little of the money for a rainy day, and then shift it to your retirement benefit later on. Very important. And as we go across the island, we will team it up with alternative dispute resolution. And many, you will recall, I provided a concept paper on alternative dispute resolution. But this, Madam Speaker, colleagues, is to ensure that persons start taking responsibility for their financial situation. Get into estate planning, make a will, plan for your retirement. Because, Madam Speaker, when you do that, we have less work on the Administrator General. At the moment, Madam Speaker, they have close to $50 billion worth of properties to manage. And most of these properties are deteriorating. It's more important that we try to get it to the beneficiaries. And they have over close to $5 billion, which we really would like to dispose of to the beneficiaries. And we're going around the country on a regular basis, urging beneficiaries to get together, work with the Administrator General. We are going to train some mediators down at the Administrator General Department so they can get persons together to work out and collect the benefits of the deceased estate. So, Madam Speaker, it's very important that we emphasize how important it is for every Jamaican to think about estate planning and making a will and stop the foolishness about it gives a bad omen. We need to get out of that culture. Madam Speaker, the Legal Aid Council has done extremely well. What I can tell you, apart from judgment debt, you remember judgment debt? Yes. When we came to office, everybody was owed money. Nobody has heard for the last 5 years about anybody being owed, because for the last 5 years, we paid all the settled judgment debt. And it is the same, Madam Speaker, with legal aid. When I came to office in 2016, all the lawyers said, beg Mr. Chow, see if you can put some more money so our certificates can be paid. For the last 4 years, we have to be writing lawyers and sending a certificate so we can pay you before the end of the fiscal year. And so everything attorney, if you're owed, if anyone is owed, let me know. Because once you send in your certificates, within days we pay. What is more, Madam Speaker, where we pay a flat sum, but if the matters continue longer than 2 weeks, we pay them an increased amount. And we pay them on a proportionate basis continuously. But, Madam Speaker, the member from Northeast St. Elizabeth once again said, you need, no, she knows that we have money to pay all the lawyers in the criminal court. She won't know for civil court. But again, member from Northeast St. Elizabeth, if you had done your research, you know that we start doing it. We did. This government is a very prudent government. You don't spend money, and you don't know how much will be spent and where it is coming from. So we did 2 pilot projects in St. Anne and Clarendon, and we are working on that basis to see how we roll out civil case matters. Right. Now, what I can say, what I can say is that from over 4 or 5 years ago, we have been in discussion about additional sums to pay in civil cases. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, we were supposed to have 3 legal aid clinics. One of them at Tower Street was being managed by the Kingston Legal Aid Clinic. Unfortunately, it has been taken over by a private practitioner, and so legal aid services are not being provided there. We have been begging this private practitioner to give up the place so we can renovate it and provide civil legal aid cases, and we are hoping it will be done during the course of this year. Madam Speaker, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution is indeed absolutely effective in building a stronger justice system based on the efficient way in which it is handling its portfolio and prosecuting serious crimes. In fact, I've been informed that the office has been invited to assess and assist other countries to share some of their successful swift action models in handling these crimes. These countries are among the 22 countries and jurisdictions on the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF. Madam Speaker, this country should be proud of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. It is working steadfastly to ensure that serious criminals are put to the prisons or that they get their justice. And so, Madam Speaker, if you look at Appendix 12, you will see the performance of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. The Office of the Parliamentary Counsel, Madam Speaker, they are the ones who draft the laws. Here again, CPC, Judith Grant and her team, they're doing a fantastic amount of work. And I once again ask you to look at Appendix 13 to see the performance of the OPC. Then, Madam Speaker, I ask members to look at Appendix 14 at the Justice Training Institute, where we are sensitizing hundreds of JPs and others. It is doing a fantastic job, and it is continues to ensure that court reporters, we have a court reporting work going on now, and court reporters are coming from the rest of the Caribbean to go to study there to become court reporters. So in short order, there will be no shortage of court reporters. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Justice has to deal with marriage licenses. If you want to get married, you have to get a marriage license. You can go to the Ministry of Justice, and within 24 hours, you get your marriage license. You have to find a lady first. and I say, Madam, and I say that these certificates, everything can be done, and it is done within 24 hours. We will be digitizing that service in short order. Madam Speaker, you can look at Appendix 15 and see. Those expungement of criminal records. You will see, Madam Speaker, that in the expungement of criminal records, we widened the act a couple months ago, which allow us now that if you committed a non-custodial offense before 2005, which is an expungible offense, you can get your records expunged. I have to report that tens of thousands of these have been expunged. So members applicants, these ex-offenders, no longer have to apply. If the records show that this non-custodial offense was there, then it should not be on the official criminal records. Oh, 20 minutes. I don't get the 15 minutes in. You lie. No. Madam Speaker, I would only urge persons, we have now increased the number of commissioners on the expungement committee to 9. And they're meeting at least once per week, sometimes twice per week, to get rid of the backlog. We had about 2,000, it's now under 1,000, and we hope in another couple months.
Minister Chuck, I am going to break you, and I'm going to add your additional time because I realize you're rushing as if you do not know that there is additional time.
15 minutes, I am aware.
Right, so we're going to put it on now, Minister Chuck.
I actually need it, Madam Speaker. No. But I would like to urge ex-offenders that don't wait until you're traveling. Don't wait until you need you apply for a new job. If you know you've committed an offense, you can apply and hopefully get the record expunged. Especially those who had drug offenses. You will recall, colleagues, that we remove the drug offenses from the third schedule. And also, if your sentence was more than 5 years, but less than 10 years, you're now eligible for those expungible offenses. Madam Speaker, this Parliament should be proud that we are able to give people a second chance. And Madam Speaker, I am sure many of you who have spoken to me and we have been able to help you, the members are so thankful for getting a second chance. And that is very important for our people. Madam Speaker, I come to Justices of the Peace Services. And last week, Madam Speaker, When the member from Northeast St. Elizabeth. When I was trying, Madam Speaker, I got up to prevent her from misinforming the Parliament. When she got up and said, JP should be paid a stipend. I said, but you do your research, we have been doing it for the last 3 years. Every JP can now appeal to their JP Parish Association to recover. Can I ask? So to ask for recovery. 1 second. They are not. They are. Every parish.
Minister Chalk.
Every parish.
Minister Chalk.
Every parish.
Minister Chalk.
Now get $1 million.
Minister Chalk.
Annually.
Minister Chalk. Minister Chalk.
So that JPs who serve in the lay magistrates court,
Minister Chalk.
JPs who work with the police, who have to
Member Cuthbert-Finn, could you get Minister Chalk's attention?
Who have to serve, who have to be at the police station.
Minister Chalk, could you be so kind as to take your seat? Minister Chalk, members on the opposition benches, I would like to hear the minister's presentation. No, I am very serious about it. Minister Chalk. Ms. Brandon, give the minister back his time. Give him back his time. No? Minister Chalk.
I have time.
Minister Chalk. Minister Chalk. Minister Chalk, please take your seat. Members, please take out your standing orders and refer. Please take out your standing orders and refer to standing orders 40 and standing orders 42. Separate and apart from persons asking for intervention, the level of noise is such that I cannot hear the member present at all, which is a requirement of the House rules. She finished. Minister Chalk, I have restored your time. And members, if you continue, then Minister Chalk is going to get even more time to complete his presentation.
No. No. Member, we'll finish in time. We'll finish in time. Madam Speaker, no other Minister of Justice has done more for the GPs than this minister. And that is why we have more than doubled the number of GPs in the island. We have monthly sensitization to empower our GPs even more to provide more justice services to the people across the country. That is a fact. Madam Speaker, talk about stipend. Any GP who is serving in the courts with the police taking witness statement and they have to spend time, they can collect a stipend. Yeah, can collect it. But Madam Speaker, if I don't want it, Madam Speaker, the idea of paying GPs regularly is out. It won't happen. It won't happen. Madam Speaker, the JPs, apart from those services in the court, spirit license, lay magistrate, children's court, where they can get a stipend, what do? They witness identities, they give recommendations, and they witness signatures. Madam Speaker, all of these services that the JPs now provide, the Minister of Religion, a police officer, a principal of a school can provide that service. If these other persons, if we decide to pay JPs, would those other people be entitled to be paid too? You must see, all the JPs that I know, that I have interacted with, they have said that JP service is voluntary. We want to help our people. And those JPs who are charging, they are corrupting the system. They are a part of the corruption of taxi drivers getting more than one license. They used to corrupt the passport, and we want to decommission any of them charging. Yes. Because the truth of the matter is, JPs realize, and we must all realize, the biblical maxim, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Amen. And that is what I urge on all the JPs. When you go and you give volunteer service, in the long run, you get a huge amount of blessings. And they're not unhappy to do it. And, Madam Speaker, if the member from Northeast St. Elizabeth had done her homework, she would see that across the Commonwealth, Canada, Australia, across the Commonwealth that has JPs, it's a voluntary service. Only in one province in Canada, Saskatchewan, where some JPs are employed and they are paid differently. And not only that, Madam Speaker, JPs can also be trained as mediators, restorative justice facilitators, and they can get a stipend when they participate in restorative justice and also mediation. And I encourage JPs to do that. So please, member from Northeast St. Elizabeth. Well, you know, I must tell you the truth. I really felt sorry for you. Because when you are talking, it's clear you did not. It is clear you did not have much in the justice sector to criticize. So you went all over the place, including the Firearms Act, which is in the Ministry of National Security, including talking about, arresting the powers of police. So I was really sorry for you that you had to go all over the place instead of sticking to justice matters. Madam Speaker, during the course of last year, we commissioned 28 new notary publics, and they have now 130. Madam Speaker, that is in Appendix 18. Yes. If you look at Appendix 19, you will see the amount of money we have been spending on infrastructure. Yes. And Madam Speaker, it is the same with information and communication technology. Look at Appendix 20 and you see what we have done. Yes. But I want to touch on another item. Yes. constitutional reform. Human rights. Madam Speaker, Jamaica's constitution is the supreme law, guaranteeing freedom, rights and privileges to all Jamaicans. It is the cornerstone of an efficient, accessible and stronger justice system. Yes. Let me pause here to recognize and thank the former Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, MP Marlene Malahoo Fort, who along with then Permanent Secretary Wayne Robertson and team and Lieutenant Rocky Mead held several town hall meetings and provided Parliament with a well-documented report by the Constitutional Reform Committee. Madam Speaker, the Constitution Amendment Republic Bill 2024 was already tabled to remove the monarch. Once again, Madam Speaker, for Jamaica's sake, let us look at the bill and see how it can be amended if necessary and modified so that this Parliament, at the earliest possible time, can debate and remove the monarch. We need to become a republic. There is no need to delay this process. The final appellate court will come to Jamaica, but it is a matter that we want to take to the people in further constitutional town hall meetings. Yes. You see, Madam Speaker, the final appellate court has many possibilities. We can go the route of Hong Kong, where the final appellate court consists of international judges and Hong Kong judges, and they sit as the final appellate court. I don't mind if the final appellate court in Jamaica, the 5 Caribbean court judges sit, but it must be a Jamaican final court. This CCJ, and what is behind it was well put by Sheridan Ramphal, where he said that the CCJ is the beginning to reintegrate the Caribbean. Is that what we want? We need to discuss it at town hall meetings. Is that what we want? A Caribbean Union? That CARICOM, no problem. But we don't have a Caribbean legal system. And I would like to be able to elaborate on this at town hall meetings. So, Madam Speaker, I urge, and this Parliament must urge and invite the opposition leader to let us restart the constitutional process. Yes. No, Madam Speaker, we can do a fair amount of piecemeal, putting in the Electoral Commissioner of Jamaica as a part of it, the public defender, and other pieces. But without the consensus of this Parliament, it doesn't make sense. But if we're not going to go and do a process, we may well have to do it. Because we have bills there to put in the Electoral Commission and the public defender as a part of the Constitution. But we want it to be a consensus of this Parliament. Amen. I urge, talk to the leader of the opposition all the way over there, and let's get on with the job. In the meantime, Madam Speaker, we have continued the strategic and targeted public education program on the Constitution. As part of our sustained legal education efforts, we distributed more than 400 Jamaican-branded consolidated copies of the Constitution, and I know my Minister of State was at UTEC, UWI, distributing Constitution and engaging in public education. Madam Speaker, we look forward to a renewed effort to get our Constitution reflecting what we want. Now, Madam Speaker, human rights is a very important part of this government and of this minister. Yes. And as I go across the country, I promote the respect for one another's human rights. Yes. Yes. And I will continue to do it. Yes. I can tell you that when we reported to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Universal Periodic Review, we got very good commendation. Yes. Jamaica does not, and I hope will never have a human rights problem. Yeah. We have the Office of the Public Defender. If you have a difficulty, you can go to the Office of the Public Defender and prosecute any human rights breach. They are empowered to prosecute any human rights breach. Madam Speaker, we are engaged in a number of departments which I will not go through, but if you look at Appendix 23, you will see the Law Revision Secretariat. You will see what we have done on human rights, Appendix 22. Legal education, we have had several sensitization programs with judges, clerks of courts, GPs, and so on. Madam Speaker, I must conclude. We close this 2026 sectoral presentation with a clarion call to our justice stakeholders and all Jamaicans to help sustain our efforts of building a stronger justice system. Yes. Inspired by NARA's vision of fast-track project delivery, yes, we look forward to constructing new courts and renovating damaged justice facilities. Yes. We will adopt climate-resilient and modern engineering standards as well as public-private partnerships to meet our infrastructure goals. Yes. The implementation of the paperless integrated electronic case management system, the IECMS, will further bolster our efforts at digital transformation in the Jamaican courts and strengthen the wider justice system. Hear, hear. Madam Speaker, this sectoral presentation has once again highlighted and promoted a range of conflict resolution tools as our free and accessible island-wide social justice programs in restorative justice, child diversion, victim services, mediation, etc. Our financing of the win-win mediation services is intended to result in a more peaceful and harmonious Jamaica. Yeah. Our recently launched island-wide forum on alternative dispute resolution, ADR, will continue to be paired with the state management and planning guidelines as we aim to reduce deadlift-related incidents of violence within families. Madam Speaker, let me say I'm proud to be a part of this Andrew Holness-led cabinet. Everything that I've asked for to uplift and build a strong justice system, the ministers of finance from Audley Shaw, Nigel Clark, and now Fable Williams, we get. Yes. The only thing stopping us in terms of money is the procurement thing. And we have to overcome this procurement thing. Because we have the funds are available. The funds are available, but procurement frequently we can't get the courts built. Madam Speaker, this administration has ensured that anyone who ever wants justice need their head examined. Because you can get justice. And let me remind you of the number. 888 Justice, 587-8423. Call and they will help you to get justice. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that the strong support of my colleagues have ensured that this is a proud Justice Minister. And I call on all parliamentarians, let us help our fellow Jamaicans to live peacefully and harmoniously. Indeed, I will be soon with a member from North East St. Elizabeth to say how best she can help. So finally, Madam Speaker, our 2025-26 achievements chronicled in this sectoral presentation, including major justice reform initiatives such as changes to Jamaica's expungement framework and its positive impact on hundreds of Jamaican lives. We anticipate similar success stories and our constitutional reform initiatives, which will undoubtedly contribute to building a stronger justice system for Jamaica. Madam Speaker, colleagues, I say blessings to all Jamaicans. And may God bless all of us. Thank you.
He said, you give him everything you want.
House Leader. House Leader. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, after such an exceptional presentation by the best Justice Minister that this country has seen, we will gesture no longer. And we will move to the presentation. We will move to the presentation from a wonderful Member of Parliament. Member of Parliament for St. Catherine, North Central.
Madam Speaker, I rise to make my 19th presentation on these annual sectoral debates.
Member, permission to
Gratitude.
speak from a seat other than your own.
Oh, Madam Speaker, kindly asking you for your permission to speak from a seat other than my own.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Gratitude to God prevails. Appreciative of the support of family, headed by my husband, Marlon Garvey. You are truly the wind beneath my wings. Blessed by the unconditional love of my daughter, Morgan. Who celebrates her birthday today. And the remarkable love of a mother who has given 3 decades of service to the United Nations and who has forged in us an appreciation for peoples and cultures across nations, and a deep awareness of the value of democracy. Your 84 years on this world is value to us all. Thanks to my 4 councillors, Denise Murphy-Bramwell, Patricia Harris, Dwight Burke, and Desmond Chambers, for the hard way. To my constituents, for their unwavering support over 5 consecutive terms. To the student leaders of Dintil Technical High School one of the finest institutions in our country. And for the full solidarity of my colleague parliamentarians, headed by the Leader of Opposition, Mr. Mark Jefferson Gordon. I associate my colleagues opposite in the same sentence because you've also become part of my family. I want to take this opportunity to extend my condolences to Member Malahoo Fort, who lost her husband recently. I understand grief, and today I pray for God's comfort on her and her family. The work of the members of Parliament is never done, whether through the falling rain or the extensive drought. Consequently, I must say thanks to my personal staff, my security, my team at the office, my constituency team, my colleagues in local government, because I also served almost a decade as a councillor myself. I'm indebted to all of you, and please know that I appreciate the work of every individual. From solid waste management to road repairs, local water systems, markets, building permits, municipal infrastructure to community participation, our local government is at the heart of everyday life. Its proper place is the backbone, not the background of Jamaican life. Madam Speaker, we have been at reform process for over a quarter of a century, and time come to deliver real results to the people. There are moments in life, the life of a nation, when reform is no longer optional, when adjustment is no longer adequate, and when reimagination itself becomes a duty. This is such a moment. Today I rise not merely to speak about local government administration. I rise to speak about national renewal and to urge a fast tracking of its incomplete agenda of reform. For too long in Jamaica, we have misunderstood local government. We have treated it as an afterthought, an appendage to central government, a reluctant administrative cousin summoned occasionally to clean drains, patch roads, trim verges, and bury our dead. We have mistaken local government for local housekeeping. Yet, in the great democracies of the world, local government is something far greater. It is government closest to the citizens. It is democracy made visible. It is service delivery made immediate. It is development made personal. And perhaps most importantly, it is where ordinary citizens that encounter the competence, compassion, or failure of a state. When a market is unsafe, when garbage is not collected, when flood mitigation fails, when roads collapse, when permits disappear into bureaucratic limbo, when public spaces decay, citizens do not experience abstract policy failure. They experience government failure. Madam Speaker, Jamaica stands at an uncomfortable crossroads. Over 30 years, the reforms of the early 90s inspired hope. We were promised a transformed local government system, a modern architecture of democratic participation, greater autonomy, better services, stronger accountability, institutions responsive to communities rather than distant ministries. It was, in many respects, a noble ambition. But patriotism requires honesty. The dream of 1992 has not lived up to expectations. The truth must be spoken plainly in this honorable House. Our municipalities remain financially weak. Our local authorities remain administratively constrained. Decision-making remains excessively centralized. Citizen confidence remains fragile. Innovation remains sporadic. And in too many communities, local governments survives not as a strategic engine of development, but as an exhausted mechanism of maintenance which is not up to scratch. We cannot reform what we refuse to diagnose. And diagnosis begins with candor. Too often governments have spoken proudly of decentralization when we know we are practicing the very opposite. We are hoarding authority. Too often local government has been praised ceremonially while neglected institutionally. Madam Speaker, one could be forgiven for concluding that in Jamaica we support local government in the same way some people like me support exercise. Passionate in theory, inconsistent in practice. A few murmurs of agreement and a burst of enthusiasm in a January New Year resolution. Then a rapid return to the old habits as the year progresses. That is the reality. A nation aspiring to first world standards cannot sustain third world systems of local administration. We speak proudly about becoming the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. But greatness is not built exclusively in ministries in Kingston. No, sir. Greatness is built in communities, in parishes, built where the people live. And therefore, local government is not peripheral to development. It is development. It is. Madam Speaker, if Jamaica is to compete in the 21st century, we must stop governing communities as if efficiency, responsiveness, transparency, and innovation are luxuries. Yeah. They are necessities. Yes. When one studies the most successful jurisdiction in the world, we encounter a consistent lesson. Whether in Singapore, in Denmark, in Canada, or highly effective municipal systems in parts of the United Kingdom, local government is treated as not as democratic bureaucracy. Exactly. It is empowered. Yeah. It is resourced properly. It is professionalized. Yes. It is digitized. Yes. It is measured and it is trusted. Yes. Citizens in those jurisdictions do not want to wait months to know whether a permit is approved. They do not want to go from office to office, yes, seeking signatures like pilgrims in search of revelation. They do not want to endure endless procedural uncertainty while systems apologize for inefficiency and call it patience. Yes. Madam Speaker, the Jamaican people deserve better. And the truth is, they are ready for better. Right. The local government system cannot be a timid improvement upon yesterday. It must be transformational. So what then is the vision? It is a Jamaica where local government is competent, accountable, technologically advanced, financially empowered, and genuinely democratic. A Jamaica where municipal offices become centers of problem solving rather than monuments to bureaucracy. Yes. It must create a Jamaica where communities shape priorities instead of merely reacting to neglect. A Jamaica where local authorities are judged not by excuses, but by outcomes. A Jamaica where every citizen, whether in the urban centers of Spanish Town or the rural districts of Sligoville, experience governance that is visible, efficient, and dignified. We seek a second generation of local government reform. The unfinished promise of 1992 must now become the realized ambition of the 2030s. The vision is not partisan, because, Madam Speaker, garbage does not ask who you vote for. Street lights, if you can't get any, don't ask which side of the fence you're upon. Floodwaters do not pause for political affiliation. And broken roads inconvenience every ideology. Competent local governance benefits everyone. Madam Speaker, there have been improvements. Minister, there have been some improvements, but not enough. Governance cannot be measured solely by announcements, ceremonies, and ribbon cuttings.
No, sir.
Competence is measurable.
Yes.
Performance is measurable.
Yes.
And delivery of services is measurable. Let us look at solid waste management and the creation of the National Solid Waste Management Authority. The dream was for better standards and more efficient management. That is fading fast. The objective of the Act is not even being observed.
No, sir.
Because the NSWA is yet to be structured according to the Act and is not functioning as a regulatory body. The government maintains it as an operating entity and has invested in more trucks, yet the system gets worse. Irregular garbage collection is now the #1 complaint of every citizen in every parish, whether in urban centers or rural communities. There are some communities which have never seen a garbage truck, ever.
Yes, yes, we have only.
So what do we expect? The inadequate field is improperly maintained, and every audit raises fundamental management questions. It seems a personality cult, no rules, and people's jobs are terminated on spurious grounds, such as one single person losing confidence in professional staff without explanation to the public. This is done at great expense to the taxpayer, totaling tens of millions of dollars. Solid waste services must improve because it's not cheap. The cost of solid waste management services in 26-27 estimates of expenditure is $8.5 billion, down from $9.7 billion over last year. In 2 years, it will cost taxpayers over $18 billion for garbage collection and disposal. And yet, the people are complaining about the delivery of service and the risk of disease outbreak. We only have mini dumps, Madam Speaker, because people are not getting garbage collection on time. They can't have the garbage at home, so they have to find a way to dispose of it. We don't want them to burn it either, because we must protect our environment. Madam Speaker, the people are also asking, why does local government continue to depend disproportionately on ministerial permission? This was a key issue in the reform, hence the establishment of the Parochial Revenue Fund and the passage of the 3 acts in Parliament. These are not opposition questions. These are Jamaican questions. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we must revisit the 1992 dream, now threatening to become a nightmare. The 3 critical laws passed in 2016 as a framework of the new governance arrangements cannot even benefit the system because no regulations have been brought to this honorable House. This government has no excuses. You have been here for 10 years. The government came last week and you promised a new building act while we still await the regulations of 10 years ago. What about other agreed reforms, including directly elected executive mayors, financial reform, and genuine municipal empowerment? What about accountability and measurable performance? Local government in Jamaica cannot continue to operate as if modernity is a visitor rather than a permanent resident. Excellence requires courage. Courage to confront failure. Courage to abandon complacency. And the courage to modernize and to reimagine. Central government must cease treating municipal corporations as institutions permanently awaiting permission to function. We must instead build a modern fiscal program for MCs to get on with the business of running their municipalities and implementing basic tasks such as drain cleaning without waiting for a handout of municipal permission. Minister, the $300,000 you announced to give councillors is an insult to them, Minister. And you were a mayor, good mayor. And we know you know, say, we need more money in local government. We need to stop giving councillors basket to carry water. Madam Speaker, municipalities have been experiencing ad hoc delivery of parochial revenue funds or permission to use their SGRs, even after documentation is completed. This has resulted in many parishes not being able to carry out their program of work. And we saw it as they hurriedly tried to clean drains when Melissa was already here. Madam Speaker, our local financing architecture remains too narrow. Municipal corporations depend excessively on constrained revenue channels while operating within expanding expectations. This is unsustainable. We must modernize revenue administration through technology, compliance reform, and diversified local income mechanisms. Property tax administration must become smarter, more transparent, and more efficient. Citizens deserve fairness, but fairness includes compliance. We cannot sustain public expectations while tolerating chronic leakage. Technology can help dramatically. Digital property databases, GIS mapping systems, integrated billing platforms, real-time compliance tracking, automated payment systems, and predictive revenue planning. Madam Speaker, municipalities should benefit more meaningfully from economic growth occurring within their jurisdictions. Too often communities host economic activity while local institutions remain fiscally constrained. A modern local government model should permit structured revenue sharing arrangements linked to measurable outcomes. Measurable outcomes like growth in tourism, commercial expansion, industrial activity.
Member, take a seat. The Speaker, while listening to the member, is resolving an issue as it relates to sectoral debates. Because we are out of time. We are out of time. Member, continue.
She does it every day. Or she leaves. She does it every day.
So I'm back to the second point. Municipalities should benefit more. Madam Speaker. On point number 2, municipalities should benefit more meaningfully from economic growth occurring within their jurisdictions. Too often, communities host economic activity while local institutions remain fiscally constrained. A modern local government model should permit structured revenue sharing arrangements linked to measurable outcomes, to the growth in tourism, the commercial expansions, the industrial activity, real estate development, special economic zones, and major transport infrastructure. Local government should have stronger developmental incentives. When communities thrive economically, municipalities should gain institutional capacity to reinvest. Number 3, performance must matter, resources matter, and the outcomes matter as well. Municipal corporations that demonstrate measurable improvements in governance indicators should receive performance-linked incentives. These measurements could include faster permit turnaround, improved sanitation metrics, infrastructure maintenance targets, budget transparency, procurement efficiency, and citizen participation. Reward effectiveness and efficiency. For far too long in Jamaica, public systems sometimes appear to reward endurance rather than their excellence. We must change that culture, Madam Speaker. A high-performing municipality should not be treated identically to a chronic underperforming one because incentives shape behavior. Number 4, municipal empowerment does not mean financial recklessness. No one is advocating for uncontrolled borrowing or municipal debt crisis. But responsible nations allow competent municipalities structured pathways to finance transformational infrastructure. Their markets, the transportation hubs, the waste management facilities, the green public spaces, the public parking systems, properly governed municipal financing frameworks, infrastructure partnerships, and other development financing mechanisms deserve serious examination. Otherwise, what is the purpose of this reform? Madam Speaker, one of the most number 5, corrosive features of under-empowered local government is institutional dependency. The psychology of dependency has become embedded, and dependency weakens innovation. Local government cannot exist merely to request assistance. It must solve problems, lead, innovate, and deliver. Mayors and municipalities should be constantly asking, how do we improve outcomes, not how do we secure the minister's permission. Madam Speaker, this issue is larger than any particular administration. It concerns integrity, dignity, institutional dignity, and community dignity. When local government fails, community sees it as neglect. Mediocrity becomes tolerated and hope is extinguished. Number 6, Madam Speaker, local government cannot merely maintain roads and collect garbage. Cannot just maintain markets and cemeteries. The future of municipal leadership is rooted in economic development of our parishes to support rural and urban life. Parish development committees need to be restructured and given new mandates. Unfortunately, this is not an area which this present administration takes seriously. The minister hardly ever gives any support. None at all, very little, to parish economic development committees, both in policy and in practice. Their new mandate should include driving investment, coordinating business facilitation, supporting entrepreneurship, promoting local cultural industries, marketing parish competitiveness, and helping to fast-track parish projects. Madam Speaker, Jamaica is not short on intelligence. We're not short on talent. But one of the great things about Jamaica is that each parish has its own unique economic potential. The challenge is converting those advantages into real benefits to improve the lives of our people, especially in rural communities. We should be talking about which parishes attract the fastest business approvals, which expands youth employment, which vitalizes urban centers, which delivers cleaner public spaces. Jamaica desperately needs higher standards. We need to get local government out of the practice of arriving at the dinner table after the meal has been eaten. In Jamaica, if Jamaica is serious about a Millennium Development Goal achievement, especially becoming the place of choice to live, then the municipal capacity must be transformed and funded accordingly. Money alone can't modernize though. Which is why our next reform pillar concerns something transformational: the digitization of local government and the creation of smart, citizen-centered municipal services. If local government in Jamaica is to become world-class, it cannot merely think differently, it must operate differently. The 21st century citizen increasingly encounters a 20th century bureaucracy. That contradiction frustrates progress. We live in an age when Jamaicans can transfer funds instantly, speak face-to-face across continents, access information in seconds, and conduct sophisticated commercial transactions from mobile devices. Yet too often, a citizen seeking municipal approval encounters uncertainty, paper dependency, fragmented communication, or administrative silence. Madam Speaker, bureaucracy should not feel like archaeology. No. Citizens should not have to excavate information. They should not have to wander from office to office searching for updates as though governance is a scavenger hunt. Modern government must become visible, trackable, transparent, and responsive. This requires nothing less than a national program of municipal digitization. Madam Speaker, I therefore propose the creation of a Smart Jamaica, Smart Municipal Jamaica initiative. Not an acronym, simply a design to transform every municipal corporation into a digitally capable, citizen-centered institution. It means citizens should be able to apply for permits, licenses, and municipal approvals online. Yes. 2026 after all. They should be able to track applications in real time, receive predictable timelines, escalate unresolved delays, pay fees digitally, access service requests through unified platforms. Receive updates automatically.
Yes.
Rate service. Let me say that one again.
Say it again.
Rate service experiences.
Say it again.
Monitor infrastructure projects.
Yes.
Participate in consultation.
Yes.
And to access municipal information transparently. Madam Speaker, it's not a dream. Systems exist, and we can no longer delay this modernization through the application of digital technology. Madam Speaker, Jamaica must create a unified digital ecosystem connecting municipal corporations across Jamaica.
Yes.
A common platform, integrated standards, shared technology, interoperable systems, one citizen portal, one municipal identity framework, one national standard of responsiveness. Digitization must move beyond paperwork. It must be support resilience. It must know when gullies are blocked,
Yes.
which shelters are not working or resourced,
Don't have
which communities face elevated flood risk, where illegal dumping is occurred. Madam Speaker, technology should help save money, but most importantly, it should help save communities. Madam Speaker, the issue of community engagement and citizen participation in governance is one of the great concerns. Some ministries and agencies do consult, but it is not a part of our governance culture.
Yes.
Perhaps it is because the SDC really isn't doing what the SDC was mandated to do. It was created with an ambitious mandate to reorganize communities, to build local leadership, strengthen civil participation, and to act as a bridge between citizen and the state. In principle, it should be one of Jamaica's most important institutions to facilitate grassroots democracy and community development. Instead, it has become an organization which needs a facelift and to be reimagined.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I see the time, and I heard your threats, and so I am going to conclude. I am going to conclude because I'm a disciplined member of Parliament.
I should not take no time.
Madam Speaker, the task before us is not merely how we repair and reform local government. The question is, what kind of Jamaica do we wish to build?
Yes.
Do we accept a system in which citizens are too often spectators, consulted only at election time, and then left to navigate failing systems and failing services? Inadequate local planning, neglected communities, and decisions made far from the people they affect? Or do we choose a Jamaica where governance is brought closer to the people, where communities have a voice, local institutions have strength, and democracy is lived every day, not every 5 years? The proposal...
Hold on. You're not on mic, member. So you still like how you tell me you're a disciplined member of Parliament? Anyways. No, it's okay. I'm going to give you the time to wrap up. Give you the time. Anyways, I'm giving you the time to wrap up, member. But you see, because you announce how you're a disciplined member of Parliament, It looked like you don't want any time extra at all. All right, go ahead, member.
The proposals advanced here today, Madam Speaker, are not abstract theories. They are practical, achievable, and rooted in a simple democratic principle. The people of Jamaica deserve a government that listens, responds, and delivers, beginning where life is lived. In our communities, in our districts, in our towns. For too long, local government has been treated as the forgotten arm of governance, expected to do more with less, burdened with responsibilities but denied sufficient authority, expected to expedite and inspire confidence while starved of modern systems, resources, and public trust. Yet across the world, the strongest democracies teach us a powerful lessons. Nations thrive when local government thrives. Prosperous countries are built not only from strong central governments, but from capable local institutions that solve problems quickly, involve citizens meaningfully, and create a culture of shared responsibility. Imagine a Jamaica where every citizen can digitally engage with their municipal corporation.
All right, member.
Track projects in real time.
Member, your extra
and
minute and a half is finished,
in
so wrap up.
budgeting. Imagine the local authorities, neighborhood councils, youth advisory structures, citizens' assemblies, and transparent decision-making processes. Jamaicans have never lacked talent. And so today, we are saying to you, the dream of local government reform envisioned decades ago remains unfinished business. But unfinished business is not necessarily failed business unless we abandon the courage to complete it. So let this Parliament resolve that the next chapter of Jamaica's democratic journey will not be one of over-centralization, delay and exclusion, but one of participation, accountability, innovation, and local pride. Let us build communities where citizens are not petitioners to power, but partners in government. Let us create municipal institutions worthy of public confidence.
All right. You can't say I'm unreasonable. All right, member Nito, that's it. You know how long I've been giving you the last paragraph?
Let us finally bring governance closer to the governed. When citizens participate, democracy deepens. When communities are empowered, nations prosper. And when local government works, Jamaica works. God bless Jamaica. God bless the
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the member from St. Catherine, North Central. I really hope the municipal corporations, especially those in Westmoreland, Manchester, St. Catherine, were paying, can you allow me? Were paying keen attention to what you have put forward. And we commend you on a solid presentation. Madam Speaker, I ask for the recommittal of, I ask for the suspension of the standing orders. Suspension of the sectoral debates and the recommittal of the agenda. In notices. I've got notices.
House, the question is that we suspend the sectoral debates to continue at the next sitting. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. We are also putting the question to the House to recommit from statement by Minister to go through the agenda items that we need to for today's sitting. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Statement by Minister.
Madam Speaker, today we will have a statement by the Minister of Transport, Telecommunications and Energy, the Honorable Darrell Vaz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of this Honourable House. I wish to provide an update regarding the JPS license negotiation and the findings contained in the preliminary report submitted by the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited on the All-Island power outage that occurred on June 5th, 2026. Madam Speaker, the government has reviewed the current JPS license and identified significant shortcomings, including high electricity costs, inadequate provisions for system resilience, high losses passed on to the consumers, slow renewable energy integration, weak efficiency incentives, and limited opportunities for competition. To address these issues, the government has adopted a two-track approach. The first track involves negotiating a new license with JPS that aligns with the national energy objectives and delivers better outcome for the consumers. And the second track prepares alternative ownership arrangements should negotiations not produce a satisfactory result, ensuring continuity of service and protection of the public interests. The government's broader goal is to reform the electricity sector by increasing accountability, improving affordability and resilience, promoting competition, and preventing the reemergence of an entrenched monopoly. An electricity license negotiating team comprises representatives of my ministry, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Attorney General's Chambers, the Consumer Advisory Committee on Utilities, local energy specialists, and international technical, legal, and financial consultants have been established to assist in guiding the process. Discussions with the JPS are underway, and the necessary legal, policy, and stakeholder consultation processes are progressing. The Green Paper remains on track for the completion in July, with Cabinet submission expected later that month. Madam Speaker, I remind the country that the current license expires in July 2027. And therefore, the government is very, very cognizant of that and also mindful of the possibility of running the clock which is something that we are not going to accept. The government remains committed to creating an electricity sector that is more affordable, reliable, resilient, competitive, and responsive to the needs of the Jamaican consumers and businesses while supporting national development and economic growth. Madam Speaker, I commit, as I have done before, to keep the Parliament and the country abreast of the negotiations and, of course, obviously, to make sure that the country is fully apprised as the process continues. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, I acknowledge the significant inconvenience, disruption, and uncertainty experienced by households, businesses, public institutions, and essential services across Jamaica. An outage of the magnitude of that experience on June 5th is downright unacceptable, and I fully understand the frustration felt by Jamaicans who were affected, especially in light of the fact that this has been going on for 20 years. Not to mention the fact that significant losses were obtained, and there is nothing in the current act for any compensation for those persons, small and large, who were affected by the activities, or their activities were affected by the All-Island power cut. I want to acknowledge the JPS CEO and the technical team who worked tirelessly to restore electricity to communities across the island. Their efforts helped the recovery process and minimize what could have been a far longer period of disruption. And as we know, the history of blackouts could be longer and the misery index soaring. According to the summarized version of the 38-page report, that's the JPS report that I have received, at approximately 9:02 p.m. on June 5th, JPS experienced a total all-island power system outage. The event was initiated within the corporate area during a period of inclement weather accompanied by lightning activity. While the report outlines the sequence of events that led to the system shutdown, I must emphasize that the root cause of the outage has not yet been conclusively determined. Investigations and technical analysis remain ongoing to establish with certainty the factors that triggered the collapse of the national grid. The report also provides details regarding the incident, the operational response undertaken by JPS, the restoration process, and a series of recommendations and follow-up actions aimed at strengthening the resilience and reliability of Jamaica's electricity network. I have reviewed the report and have requested that the investigation continue until all outstanding questions are answered. The Jamaican people deserve a complete understanding of what occurred and the assurance that every reasonable measure is being taken to prevent a reoccurrence. While restoration has been completed, the government and the JPS work is not finished. The government's responsibility extends beyond restoring power. We must determine exactly what happened, why it happened, and what measures are required to prevent a reoccurrence, especially in light of the fact that we have had several of these over the last 20 years. That is a standard I expect from all entities operating within the energy sector and any sectors of my portfolio. Last Friday's island-wide power outage is not an experience that I as minister would ever wish to see repeated during my tenure or any other ministers or government. Quite frankly, as I said before, it is unacceptable in 2026. What concerns me even more is that many of the issues identified in the preliminary report bear similarities to challenges that have been raised before. Jamaicans have a right to ask whether enough has been changed regarding system reliability and resilience, and we simply cannot continue with the same old approach to system failures and expect different outcomes. JPS shutdown history in the years previous are as follows. July 15, 2006, failure of distant relays to operate the Duncan substation following a lightning strike to the Duncan's Bogue 130 kV transmission line. July 3, 2007, due to non-clearance of a fault on lightning arresters for generator number 2 step-up transformer at Old Harbour, where one pole of the 138 kV circuit breaker in the switchyard failed to open properly. January 9, 2008, again due to non-clearance of a fault on the Doheny Tredegar 138 kV transmission line at the Tredegar, and after a wooden transmission support pole fell to the ground. August 5, 2012, again due to non-clearance of a fault on the Doheny Nagas Head 69 kV transmission line at the Doheny end at pole number 1. And August 27, 2016, due to non-clearance of a fault at the Port Authority of Jamaica substation 69 kV transmission line. Madam Speaker, the first 3 incidents have been the subject of OUR inquiries, which set out various recommendations to be implemented by JPS. I have made it clear to the JPS that this incident cannot simply become another report on a shelf. The recommendations and the corrective actions arising from this event must be treated with urgency. Jamaica's electricity system must be strengthened to better withstand operational challenges, severe weather events, and any other risks that could threaten grid stability. The Jamaican people deserve a modern, reliable, and resilient electricity network. They deserve confidence that when lessons are identified, they are acted upon. That is a standard that I intend to uphold. Madam Speaker, as stated before, this entire scenario in the year 2026 is completely unacceptable. It seems like to be the same old, same old. Nothing has changed regarding the system failure all-island power outages due to non-clearance. That cannot be an issue that we are grappling with 20 years later, despite a newer grid and advancing in technology over the past 2 decades. As indicated by the JPS, the sequence of trips and system behavior strongly suggests a failure or delayed operation of the primary protection scheme at Hunts Bay on the Rockport line, pending further analysis. This appears to have resulted in a longer fault duration, escalation of disturbance, and a wider system instability. Additionally, the JPS has noted that the environmental conditions, heavy rainfall and lightning, contributed to increased transient faults on the transmission and distribution system in the hours leading up to the event. Following the shutdown, the JPS activated its incident command structure and commenced restoration using a controlled black start and system build-up approach, initially isolating the affected corporate area assets. Restoration proceeded through the establishment of separate electrical islands, notably the Bogue Electrical Island, which provided early supply to Western Jamaica customers, and that was established at 10:01 p.m. And a Central Electrical Island was established at 10:18 p.m., supplying customers in that region. And independent restoration efforts in the corporate and central areas, a secondary system setback occurred at approximately 11:54 p.m. during the delicate generation load balancing, resulting in the loss of the central and corporate area electrical islands, while the Bogue Island remained operational. This event is reflected in the observed dip in load restoration. The restoration process regained momentum following stabilization of generation resources, synchronization of the western and eastern electrical island at approximately 3:14 a.m., which enabled improved
House Leader.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I'm asking that you allow the member sufficient time to complete his presentation.
Question is that the Minister be allowed sufficient time to complete statement by Minister. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Synchronization of the Western and Eastern electrical islands at approximately 3:14 a.m., which enabled improved system strength and interconnection flexibility. Thereafter, the system experienced accelerated restoration of customers and load, with full restoration of the grid completed by 6:34 a.m. on Saturday, June 6, 2026. While we are grateful that power was restored to customers within a relatively short period, the incident serves as a reminder that Jamaica cannot afford to return to the days when widespread outages and system instability were accepted as a normal part of life. We have made significant progress over the years in improving electricity service. The preliminary findings indicated that a grid shutdown was initiated by the loss of multiple transmission lines at a time when there was heavy rain and lightning. Additionally, initial investigations suggest a possible misoperation of the primary production scheme associated with the Hunts Bay Rockfort line. It is also noted that the scheme operated correctly multiple times in the adverse weather conditions prior to this event. These factors collectively contributed to the prolonged fault conditions, cascading generator trips, and ultimately system-wide instability and shutdown. Despite the event and our initial investigations, there are no immediate concerns for grid stability following this event and the operational measures taken. JPS has noted that the system integrity and protection will see a continued detailed analysis of relay operations and a SOE data across all affected substations, inspection and repair of all affected transmission assets, including insulators and conductors on the Hunts Bay Rockfort and Hunts Bay Port Authority lines, comprehensive review and validation of line protection schemes, with particular focus on the Hunts Bay Rockfort corridor, removal of the Hunts Bay Rockfort 69 kV transmission line from service on June 8, 2026, pending completion of full integrity checks and validation of associated protection systems. Ongoing investigations will determine the root cause of the protection system performance issue. JPS will submit a comprehensive final report to OUR, to the Offices of Utilities Regulation, OUR, in accordance with the Electricity Act 2025. The June 5th island-wide blackout has also reignited important discussions regarding accountability, consumer protection, and a regulatory framework governing Jamaica's electricity sector. I have consistently maintained that where business and Jamaicans have suffered demonstrable losses because of an outage of this magnitude, the issue of compensation must be seriously addressed and considered by the Jamaica Public Service Company. The incident has further strengthened my resolve to pursue a review of both the Electricity Act and the Office of the Utility Regulations Act to ensure that legislative and regulatory framework is fit for purpose, provides stronger protection for consumers, and equips regulators with the tools necessary to promote greater reliability and accountability within the sector with the necessary sanctions. As discussions continue regarding the renewal of the JPS license, this event underscores the importance of ensuring that the future licensing arrangements contain clear performance standards, resilience requirements, customer service obligations, and appropriate mechanisms for accountability when major system failures occur. The events of June 5th must now more than ever inform the way forward as we seek to build a modern, resilient, and consumer-focused electricity sector for Jamaicans and Jamaica. As we enter the start of the Atlantic hurricane season, we are now 10 days in the start of the season. Preparedness must remain a national priority. Last Friday served as a timely reminder of how vulnerable critical infrastructure can be disrupted. The recent island-wide blackout has reinforced the importance of ensuring that all sectors are fully prepared to withstand adverse weather conditions. I also encourage every Jamaican to take personal responsibility for preparedness as we are in the season. Madam Speaker, I must also make it explicitly clear that the 150 million US dollar loan provided to the JPS following Hurricane Melissa was ring-fenced for the purpose of restoration. I've seen several instances of misrepresentation of the purpose of the funds, and I must make it abundantly clear that these funds were not for upgrading of the network, but to ensure that the people in Western Jamaica who were suffering did not have to wait until the end of 2027 to get light and water, possibly waiting as much as 1 year plus before being restored. Thanks to the loan, the needed trucks, linesmen, and barges with equipment arrived in the island, and restoration was able to be done almost 1 year ahead of the utility provider's latest estimate. In closing, the events of the past several days have been deeply concerning. On June 5th, Jamaica experienced a total island-wide blackout under adverse weather conditions and resulted in a cascading failure of the national grid. The outage disrupted daily lives. Since then, restoration efforts have returned service to most customers. However, the impact of this event did not end with the restoration of the grid. Many customers have continued to report power interruptions and localized outages, raising further concerns about the stability and resilience of the electricity network. The preliminary report submitted by JPS has outlined the sequence of events, the operational response, the suggested cause of the wider propagation of the system instability, and recommendations for corrective action. What is clear is that this event has exposed weaknesses that cannot be ignored. Jamaica expects and deserves a reliable electricity system, and they expect accountability when failures occur and decisive action to prevent them from happening again. As Minister, I remain committed to ensuring that the lessons from this incident are fully understood, that all the recommendations are rigorously pursued, and that every stakeholder fulfills their responsibility to strengthen the national grid. The objective is not just to simply recover from this outage, but to emerge from it with stronger, more resilient, and more reliable electricity system for the people of Jamaica, and ensuring that JPS is accountable and that there are no further occurrences. The events of June 5th must serve as a turning point, not another chapter in recurring story of system failures. We owe that to Jamaica and the Jamaican people. I want to assure the nation that this matter continues to receive my full attention. As additional information becomes available, further assessments are completed, the public will be kept informed. I must also advise the public that the ministry will be engaging a world-renowned energy expert to assess reports, JPS findings, and the OUR recommendations. I'm confident that this matter can be resolved once and for all under this government and this minister based on the working relationship that we have developed with the current CEO of JPS and the management, considering the successes we achieved together in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Madam Speaker, between 2006 and 2012, we had 4 occurrences of this nature, compared to 1 in the last decade. Whilst the frequency has decreased, the greater problem must be addressed. The timeline shows this challenge was inherited by the current CEO, given that he has been here at the helm of the utility company for a little under 2 years, but like the approach of the government, he is determined to have it resolved. Madam Speaker, I have publicly expressed my dissatisfaction with the events of June 5th and the following interruptions. I can hardly find better words to say. The Jamaican public and I are sick and tired of the entire scenario over 2 decades. What I can say and assure the Jamaican people is that the matter has my full attention and that my passion will fuel the awesome responsibility and task that comes with this portfolio, and the faith and confidence that the people of Jamaica have placed in this administration will provide the determination to ensure a resolution is found once and for all. Madam Speaker, I was interacting with a few users on WhatsApp, social media, since the outage, and what I can state without fear of contradiction is that when the power went, it affected everyone. It was not political or partial, and what the people of Jamaica expect from this House is a unified approach to getting to the solutions needed to prevent further reoccurrences. I want to thank Jamaica for their patience, understanding, as the government continues to navigate this series of events and eventually to bring to a successful closure. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
There you have it, an update from the Minister of Energy and Transport, Darrell Vaz, about the Jamaica Public Service Company. There you have it. Yeah, there you have it, an update from Minister Darrell Vaz about the Jamaica Public Service Company, the island-wide power outage in Jamaica on June 5th, 2026. You know, let me not say anything. I'm gonna come on the other side of the time. It's now 6:02 in the United States, 5:02 in Jamaica from Negril Point to Moran Point. We're gonna finish this program here, the live from Garden House, and go over to the Make We Talk program, where we're gonna have a live broadcast of the current affair program right here on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, Make We Talk Now. You know, we sit down in this country, you know, and when you hear these people talking, you know, you want them to tell the truth or the lying. Let me not go down that road, but join me in the next 2 minutes for a program. The people of St. Elizabeth is telling the Prime Minister they're not for sale. And I believe, as I said on this program many times, that the people of St. Elizabeth must stand up for their fundamental rights, and they must not give up their lands because they have hurricane coming. A hurricane came by. If the people of St. Elizabeth cannot live where they always were living, and if they decide to move the people from there to put luxurious hotels, so tell me, you're telling me that the people of St. Elizabeth, it is unsafe for them to live there, but it's safe for hotels to go there? Join me in the next couple of minutes. I'll give you more on this. I am Jeffrey Tavares saying thank you very much. Have a good evening. Join us in 2 minutes' time for the Make We Talk Current Affair program. Have a good evening, everybody.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.